The Lotus Emeya, it has landed in New Zealand and we're about to take the first Kiwi drive in this. Now, like Eletre, it is electric, but unlike Eletre, it has a genuine link, despite looking so futuristic, to Lotus's history. More on that in a moment. First, let me just say, welcome to the garage. Subscribe to see the first drives of New Zealand's newest and best cars driven on New Zealand roads in New Zealand conditions. You know, I first drove Lotus Eletre. I mentioned all those things that Lotus had stood for in the past: lightweight, Formula One, little sports cars, sort of everything the Eletre isn't. And well, the Emeya is the same. It's a big car, but you see, this is a Lotus with pedigree. By the way, too, click here to watch the Eletre drive. Anyway, back to Emeya. You see, this badge has featured on not only four-seater Lotuses before, but also sedans. Not only has Hethel produced four-seaters in the past, the Lotus badge has appeared on sedans. Cars like the Lotus Cortina and the even more legendary Lotus Carlton. So that's a good enough historical link, but I reckon on style alone, this is Lotus enough. It's low and sleek. You know, I reckon back in the 70s, if Lotus made a sedan that had this sort of profile and proportions alongside the Esprit instead of the Elite, it would have been awesome. And it's not just low and sleek, it's a big car, over 5 meters long and 2 meters wide. You could say big, but beautifully formed. There are some Eletre touches like the animated vents. I like to call them Star Wars flaps. And it shares the same porous design. Because it's all in proportion, it hides its height. This is a tall car, nearly 1.5 meters, which means it's roughly 7 centimeters taller and 13 centimeters longer than a Porsche Taycan, and even slightly longer than Panamera. Well, the reason I mentioned Taycan is, well, it's simple. It was the benchmark for Lotus. And when you compare these two cars, for me anyway, the Emeya is the more striking design. And straight out performance, across the range, the Taycan edges out the Emeya. But then take it on price, and the Emeya just edges out Taycan, also across the range. This is the S, the middle model, priced at $244,000. The next step up is the 900 horsepower R. Well, to see how that powertrain performs, actually click here to see our drive, our slightly nervous drive on a damp track in the Eletra R. Now, I mention Eletra again because Emeya shares the platform from the SUV. It's just more squat with a narrower battery trimmed down to 102 kilowatt hours. Now, it's a slightly smaller battery, but check this out, you still get over 600 kilometers of range if you go for the Emeya and Emeya S. Also shared is the interior, which, well, it's intense. The graphics are run by the same engine that powers Fortnite. Floss? Not a chance. Let's take a closer look. Like the exterior design, it is stunning and super clever. You know, for all the sort of bling, there's also some clever touches like the minimal driver info strip. It reduces driving distractions. You know, I said this with Eletre, but I'm going to say it again with Emeya. The quality of materials and build in this car is a match, in fact, better than anything out of Germany. Remarkable. And before you say it, Bugatti, they're French. Look, before I jump in the back seat, just take another look at that roofline. Good. Yeah, the reason I mention that roofline is because when you get in the back, it does affect headroom. I'm okay at 183. If you're a 186 or more, you probably want to limit how much hairstyling product you put in because it will get pressed down. Legroom wise, there is actually heaps. This seat has moved back for easy egress, but as you can see, there's tons of room. And even though the headroom, if you go right back here, is squashed, it's quite open. You've got this glass roof, which is also electrochromatic, which means it tints electrically. Just another cool gadget. You know, as a quantum leap as electrification is for Lotus, the way this car is put together is a world, actually make that a universe away from the fiberglass and Morris Marina door handles that defined Lotus half a century ago. It would just dawn on me when I stand right beside Emeya, it is still quite a tall vehicle. It's not the low slung sedan it looks like as you walk up to it. That's sort of disguised by the length and the width of it. But anyway, that's enough about all that. Let's answer the burning question. Does it drive like a Lotus? You know, I said this when I drove Eletra, there is still Lotus magic at play here. In fact, if I click the steering wheel paddle, push sport mode, it comes alive even more. Not in the traditional sense, but still alive. It's not a fake smile. And the result is the Emeya doesn't feel like a 2.5 ton car when you turn in. You know what? This car is like watching Scott Robertson dance when his team has a big victory. Now, a retired All Black in his late 40s shouldn't be able to bust those sort of moves. But he does, and it's awesome. And the way this car drives, belying its size and weight, is just as impressive. There's not a lot of visual drama when you select sport mode, but you feel the throttle get a lot more responsive. The chassis tightens up, and so does your seat. The bolsters start to squeeze you in. So I'm saying, right, you're locked in, get ready for the ride. There are all sorts of supercomputers helping make this feel easy, including air suspension that feels the road and adjusts 1,000 times a second. Which is, and I'm going to get a little scientific here, almost exactly powerful enough to iron out Auckland's roads. This is the lower powered version. Lower power though means it still has 450 kilowatts, that's over 600 horsepower, and with 710 newtons it will go from 0 to 100 in 4.2 seconds. Okay, it's not the sub 3 seconds you get in the R, but there is an upside, and that's a range of more than 600 kilometres. And it will charge at up to 350 kilowatts. Now in the real world that means 370 kilometres of range will take you just 18 minutes. Now speaking of impressive numbers, that rear spoiler is 100mm wider than the Eletra's. In fact, on its own it generates 215 kilos of downforce. Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you're in that situation in the pub where you've got to go one up in a conversation, this is the car you want on your side. I mean, some of the facts, like these seats are stitched together using thread that's made from offcuts from the garment industry. And then there's these sensors in the chassis, they detect vibrations and then generate, using crazy algorithms, these out of phase sounds. The result is, well, they cancel the bad noise before it gets into the cabin. I don't understand completely all of what I just said, but like I said, it sounds impressive, doesn't it? You know, on tech alone, the Emeya is remarkable, but it's also an elegant design, which is not an easy job for a full-size sedan. But for all the tech and gadgets, and look, I do love them, you know that, when you boil it all down, this is an excellent car to drive. And you know, that more than anything doesn't just justify that Lotus badge, it makes the Emeya worthy of it, and that's really saying something.